I first noticed him on a chilly October afternoon. I was walking home from my job at the bookstore, scarf pulled tight around my neck, when I passed the park at the corner of Elm and Willow. There, on the second bench from the fountain, sat an old man. He wasn't doing anything in particular, just sitting, hands resting on a weathered cane, eyes fixed on the ducks gliding across the pond. His coat was old but clean, a deep brown wool that looked like it had seen many winters. The next day, he was there again. And the day after that, always in the same spot, at the same time, with the same quiet stillness, as if the world could spin itself silly around him, and he wouldn't move. I passed him for nearly 2 weeks before curiosity got the better of me. One particularly windy afternoon, I stopped. "Cold day to be sitting out here," I said. He looked up at me, and his eyes, clear, pale blue, seemed to take a second to place me. "The cold doesn't bother me," he said with a small smile. "The ducks don't mind it either." I laughed softly and sat down at the far end of the bench. We didn't say much that first day, just small talk about the weather, the leaves, the early hint of winter in the air. But something about his calm manner stayed with me. Over the next few weeks, I began to plan my walks so they'd pass through the park. His name, I learned, was Walter. He'd lived in the town for decades, long enough to remember when the fountain was just a stone basin and the park was little more than a patch of grass. He never spoke much about family, but I noticed the way his eyes softened whenever a child ran past or a couple strolled by holding hands. One afternoon, I brought him a cup of coffee from the cafe near my work. He accepted it with a quiet "thank you" and wrapped his hands around it like it was more than just a drink. It was warmth, company. It wasn't until mid-December, when the air turned sharp and the park emptied of nearly everyone, that I finally asked the question that had been on my mind. "Walter, why do you come here every day?" He was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the frozen pond. "My wife and I used to meet here," he said finally. "Every Thursday, rain or shine, for nearly 50 years. She liked to watch the ducks. Said they reminded her that life keeps moving no matter what." I didn't know what to say. "She's not here anymore?" Walter shook his head gently. "She passed 3 years ago, but I still come. Feels like she's here, somehow. Like if I sit long enough, she'll come walking up the path." The wind stung my eyes, but I wasn't sure if it was the cold or something else. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the faint trickle of water under the ice. That winter, I started bringing him lunch once a week. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. But I began to notice the way people would glance at us as they passed. A flicker of recognition, even respect. One spring afternoon, I arrived to find the bench empty. At first, I thought I was early, but the hours passed, and he never came. The next day, and the next it was the same. A week later, I saw a small plaque fixed to the back of the bench. "In loving memory of Walter Hayes, who waited here with love." I sat down, running my fingers over the engraved letters. In my mind, I could see him there, his warm smile, his eyes watching the ducks. Since then, I've made it a point to stop at Walter's bench whenever I pass the park. Sometimes I bring coffee and sip it slowly, watching the ducks just as he did. I don't know if it's for him or for me, maybe both, but I do know this kindness, love, and quiet presence leave marks that outlast even the coldest winters.